The 2011 local government elections brought to you live and clear by the SABC.
It is 8.5 after 8. Once again, good morning to you. Welcome to the Forum at 8. This morning we continue chatting to political parties. We're looking at what they have to offer in the run-up to next week's local government elections. Of course, the upcoming local government elections, as we reported elsewhere on the program, will be the survival of the fittest, with scores of smaller political parties who are likely to fall off the radar. And of course also, as you've heard some of the analysts saying, that they become very important and they play a critical role. It's very difficult to predict what's likely to happen. Let's just welcome then my guest on the program this morning to look at what other political parties are offering. Starting here in the studio in Johannesburg, where I'm joined by Mr. Temba Godi. He is the president of the APC. Very good morning to you, Mr. Godi. Thank you very much for your time.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Much appreciated. In Durban, I'm joined there by Mr. Wayne Thring, ACDP Deputy President. Wayne, hello.
Good morning, Kolani, and welcome to the listeners.
Thank you very much. And in our Umtata studios, we are joined there by General Bantu Olomisa, UDM leader. General Olomisa, good morning.
Good morning, and morning to the listeners of SAFM.
Thank you very much. Let me start here in the studio in Johannesburg. Mr. Godi, I just mentioned a little earlier on that these elections will be about the survival of the fittest, or particularly smaller political parties are pretty much difficult to predict what they are likely to do. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings?
Well, I can't speak for everybody, save for the APC. We have campaigned in the rural areas of Limpopo. I've been to the inner city of Jeepistown and Bentrams, and I can for sure say that the future of the APC remains bright, and I'm certain that beyond these elections, our flag is going to fly even higher than it is currently.
Let me bring General Olomisa. You're a veteran, clearly, of South African politics, and I see an article this morning in Business Day by Alistair Sparks, a political analyst and a veteran journalist. He says that these elections are a watershed moment. They'll reflect South Africa's shifting political sands. Do you agree with him?
Well, I fully agree with him. Currently, where I've been in various areas, I've noticed that these elections, the opposition parties are not opposing ANC per se, but they will be contesting these elections with the South African Communist Party members, SACP members, who successfully elbowed the ANC cadres from their list. So what we see here now is that people within the alliance are fighting along ideological lines in order to access control to the resources. So in terms of the landscape in general, the small parties surely are going to be kingmakers in a number of municipalities. UDM has betted on that wicket as early as 2004, even at provincial level. We were responsible to help ANC to take over KwaZulu-Natal in 2004, and in local government in Cape Town we worked with the DA and other small parties. So it's going to be an interesting outcome, but I'm more worried about the ANC fellows who might encourage their people not to go and vote. As a result, there are so many independents who are also from the ANC who claim that they have been elbowed by a Communist Party cabal. But those politics are theirs, but that's the reality on the ground.
Sure. But General Olomisa, again, I think the ANC is going to argue and say, well, we've heard prophets of doom in the past, and come elections day, things have gone completely different. It's very difficult to predict, they would say.
No, I will accept that argument, but I'm just narrating the facts on the ground as I move around.
Let's find out from the ACDP then, African Christian Democratic Party. From the voters' point of view, how do you think people are sensing this election? Are they still holding on to the old ways of voting, or are we likely to see completely different patterns emerging?
Kolani, I think that from the viewpoint of the ACDP, we come with a breath of fresh air with councillors and candidates who certainly are caring councillors and candidates who are going to be held accountable by the ACDP through the length and breadth of South Africa. We are going to be found, in fact, we are found in every province in KwaZulu-Natal, contesting some 80% of the districts and municipalities throughout KZN, the largest that the ACDP has ever contested in its history since 1993, the formation of the ACDP. What we are finding, coming to your question, what we are finding on the ground is certainly a lot of discontent. I've personally been into areas which have been considered to be ANC strongholds, out in Kwandengezi. Yesterday I was out in Umlazi. I will be later on in Kwamashu. And certainly on the ground, there is what we are finding is a lot of discontent with regards to service delivery.
Yeah.
People who have been promised homes, people who have been promised infrastructure, people who have been promised just some of the basics in terms of service delivery have not seen this happening in their areas. There's a lot of discontent and disgruntlement. A group of young people who I met out in Kwantengezi said to me personally, we have been voting for the ANC almost all of our voting lives, but we've had enough, and they weren't going to go and vote. And so we sat and we chatted for about half an hour and convinced them to actually to utilize their democratic right to go out and vote, and hopefully they will go and vote for the ACDP. So certainly in terms of service delivery, a lot of disgruntlement on the ground, which is what the ACDP is finding.
Let me come back to you, Mr. Godi. Of course, you mentioned that you think you're onto something in this particular election, but what is it that you are offering that is not there already? What is it that makes you think that people will be more interested in what you are saying?
Well, I must say that some of the observations that have been said already, well, we have observed them, but I think our main focus has been on whether there is support for the APC other than complaints about the ANC. What we have from the beginning indicated has been that we are bringing credibility and dignity on the table. Well, the credibility of the APC itself and my own credibility as a leader, and seeking to ensure that the dignity of our people is restored. You know, poverty, unemployment, ignorance, and all those things, they have stripped a lot of our people of their dignity. And we have emphasized the centrality of the people in all the developmental processes that affect them. That is, making the people the subject of development rather than making them the objects. So we have emphasized the fact that we want the people to be at the center of the work that our councillors will be doing. And we underpin this by our own ideological disposition as a leftist party, so that it's not just all talk, but it is something that arises from the very foundation of the organization. And we find that there is nothing that restores a sense of dignity and a sense of being to people than to say, look, whether you are poor or rich, whether you are illiterate or literate, whether you are in the rural areas or in the urban areas, you have a right to know, for example, what is the budget of your municipality. After year end, what has been the expenditure of your municipality. And to say a very simple thing, your ward councillor will interact with you as required by law once every 3 months to relate to you what is happening in municipalities and for you to say what it is that you want.
Let me bring you in again, General Olomisa. You were talking to us from Mthatha. I saw an article yesterday talking about the state of disrepair and just about how bad things are looking for people in Mthatha. And people will say, well, what is it that General Olomisa and the UDM are going to bring for the people, given the fact that at some point, I think it must have been 2000, when you were also responsible for, or you took over the town of Mthatha?
Well, it's immaterial whether I was once there or not. The challenge facing the local governments in this country is as follows. The infrastructure of the rural areas, including the towns, that is the former homelands areas, townships, and informal settlements, needs to be upgraded to be on the same par or same level as the rest of the developed South Africa, which was once controlled by white South Africans. Number two, there is a need to work closely among these three tiers of government, local, provincial, and national. the responsibility of infrastructure to be upgraded cannot be only left in the hands of the municipality, of a municipality. Umtata, for instance, as you claim that we once ruled it, we were beginning to retar streets, and then there was that floor crossing legislation, which affected our performance, and then we lost that municipality. But the bottom line is that these towns need an injection in terms of upgrading. Their infrastructure is collapsing. Many people have moved to these small towns, and the hygiene leaves much to be desired, because right now you see a heap and heap of rubbish in every corner, whether you are in Alexandra, you are in Duncan Village, you are in Khayelitsha, you are in Mthatha, and you ask yourself, on what basis would a ANC councillor want to be re-elected, whereas in the last 5 years they were not even able to clean these cities, just alone developing infrastructure, but simply employing people to maintain the cities to be clean. And then we are also going to target the owners, property owners, who own homes, but they are not maintaining them. Some of these homes are being rented out. They've never been renovated. We are also going to target government buildings in every municipality, that the government building must be maintained. So immediately after the election, if we win any municipality, our priority will be hygiene. Let us focus more on our immediate environment to make sure that at least we are not a country or people who are being seen to be sharing life with rats. These rats are moving all over the show. And, this is not on.
Okay. All right. We'll open the lines then on 0891 104 208, 0891 104 208. This morning we're talking to the UDM, ACDP and APC. What are your thoughts about the role that the smaller political parties are going to play in this election, but also about the presentation that the leaders have made here this morning? 0891 104 208. I'll be taking SMSs as well at 34701. 0891 104 208. Let me just go again back to Durban and Wayne, just talk a little bit about then what you are offering, as opposed to perhaps trying to capitalize on the complaints against the ANC.
Dolani, what the ACDP offers is clean administration. The ACDP is fairly aware of the enormous challenges that municipalities face. The Auditor General of South Africa has indicated in an audit of our municipalities that there are some huge discrepancies within our municipalities. In his report last year, we found that of the 283 municipalities that we have, 81 received disclaimers, 8 adverse reports, 47 qualified, some 107 financially unqualified with other matters, and only 4 of the 283 received clean audits. 36 municipalities were not even able to submit their paperwork, their books on time. So certainly I think that the Auditor General has found that the municipalities have failed to produce what they ought to, purely because of a lack of leadership, a lack of oversight. He's indicated that to a large extent it is pervasive material misstatements, non-compliance with laws, lapses in governance in these particular municipalities, inappropriate leadership and the wrong attitude towards a controlled environment. Again, he says inadequate leadership, supervision and monitoring, poor record keeping. So certainly one of the things that the ACDP will be looking at is clean administration. One of the reasons why we have people who are disgruntled is a lack of service delivery.
Okay.
And so service delivery would be one of the key focus areas in terms of, as well as unemployment. We have some 1.6 million people who are unemployed in 1994. This has risen up to over 4 million, an increase of over 126%. Now, unless we are able to address the issues, I think giving houses to free houses, free water, free electricity, yes, to those who are indigent, but more than just obtaining housing and water and electricity, people also need jobs. Now, Gwede Mantashe said there's nothing as indecent as not having a job. And so we find that COSATU has said decent jobs. Some of these decent jobs that COSATU is touting for have actually priced people out of the market. And so within the ACDP, our focus will be clean administration. It's jobs for the almost 4 million, some 40% or so of our working population who are unemployed.
All right, 0891 104 208. Offense in Soweto, good morning. Offense is gone. Let's go to Mario in Cape Town. Mario, hello.
Good morning,
Morning.
Polani. I'm very interested in what this gentleman is saying. I've been trying
Which gentleman? I've got three of them here.
No, the one who spoke about the necessity of upgrading the informal settlement. That was his main point.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to of your program to push. I am an architect, and I am developing it's very advanced, the program of do yourself. I have already given to the Cape Town City Council a program for upgrading the informal settlement. The idea is to promote through a system which I'm developing with industrial, a do-yourself system. So I'm very willing to offer my help to the gentleman to give him more information. The tests are very, very interesting, very favorable. They would allow for a very small amount compared to what is the cost of housing for a family of 4 or 5 with decent ends.
Okay, Mario, I know what you're doing. No, wait a minute, Mario, because now you obviously are marketing your plan and your product.
I'm not marketing. I would give it for a social preoccupation, not for money. A family can do the house by themselves. And that would also, in my opinion, to help the problem of unemployment.
Okay, you know what I'll do? I'll put you back then to the producers. They will take your contact details. If any of the political parties interested, I'll pass on your contact details. But of course also, if there's any South African that's interested, we'll certainly pass on those details. Mario in Cape Town, thank you. Gift in Port Elizabeth, good morning.
Hi, Xolani, and hi to your guest.
Yep.
Look, Xolani, quickly, I think General Romisa is correct to say most blame is always put on the door of the local government for matters that are of provincial competence, and I think we have to deal with that particular issue. Secondly, I think most of these parties, Xolani, are silent on their manifestos, for instance, on issues that I think are too complex on local government. For instance, there's always poor labor relations in local government. Secondly, Xolani, there's a lot of over-complex legislation and differing and too many reporting requirements in local government. Because I work in local government, for instance, there's also lack of coordination among national departments in dealing with municipalities. There's an inadequate national and provincial support for municipalities, and also there's a lack of clarity on the respective powers and functions of the three spheres of government and those of district and local municipalities, and tensions between these two categories of municipalities. And I think it's some of the issues that I think most smaller parties are not referring to, and I think it shows or a reflection that there's a narrow understanding of local government. But lastly, local government model also is too complex and not sensitive enough to our capacity and resource constraints. If, for instance, you look at municipalities, Yonguswa, Yombashe, Yonkonkobe, those municipalities are facing serious challenges, and most of the challenges that are facing those municipalities is tax revenue base, which is lacking. And I think those parties are not reflecting also on their manifestos. And I think maybe that's why most of the time ANC is going to win, because they're not giving the mandate, or in fact giving to the voters, this is what we are going to do. Most of the issues that are always raising is housing issues.
All right, thank you very much. Gift in Port Elizabeth. My guests will respond to those issues that you've raised. Let me go now to Graham Mtata. Good morning to you, Graham.
Good morning. Good morning to your guests.
Hi.
Thanks for taking the call.
No problem.
Just a comment on our particular town. Since I live here, we're in a serious state of collapse. Unfortunately, I just caught a little bit as I was driving. The General's not being entirely fair in saying that they lost just because of the floor crossing. They also lost because whatever attempts that they tried to do were blocked by the opposition. It was just a spoil campaign.
Graham, let me just find out something. Are you the Graham of the Ratepayers Association that was quoted in the article yesterday?
Yes.
Okay, Alexander Graham. Or Graham Alexander.
Graham Alexander.
All right, I saw that article. Yeah, and of course you were quoted as saying that the town has just ground to a halt.
Yes, it has, unfortunately.
Tell us what happened.
Well, pre-94, as the general know, things actually worked extremely well. I'm not going to go into the history and background, but maintenance was in order. Order was in play. Councillors were trying to do things, and they had the right backing. To be fair, the town's expanded considerably, and it just turned into collapse. No maintenance, no accountability. Self-serving councillors who've forgot that in real terms they're actually responsible, employed by the people. And it's become now to the extent of arrogance. I even received a call a couple of Sundays ago from an old lady who was tired of being treated in an arrogant way by her councillors, and what she felt was disrespect in terms of she's an elderly lady, not entirely mobile, but she says, Graham, I've still got a tongue and I've got a brain, and I'm tired of what's happening to this town. Unfortunately, I've also been attacked, and the race card has come up on the base, which is very unfair. I received a whole heap of mails and phone calls from the citizens saying that this is not even an issue, and it's insulting. We want to be proud of our town. We simply want the service. We do recognize that we've got a role to play. Like the General says, that we can't blame the municipality entirely for the litter when the citizens actually continue to throw it on the ground.
Just a quick one, because I need to take the news here, Graham, because I saw a quote which, well, attributed to you, where you were saying that many ratepayers in the city have given up on the municipality and are paying for repairs to municipal infrastructure, such as burst pipes, with their own money. You go on to say most of the town's businesses have bought their own generators due to the frequent blackouts. The Ratepayers Association, which includes black, white, colored, and Indian members, holds regular meetings with the municipality, but nothing ever changes.
Well, we unfortunately don't hold the regular meetings that we would like to. Efforts to try and get more is proving to be a little bit difficult. But yes, in brief and quickly, it's become the norm and accepted here. For those that can afford it, the lucky few, that we've got generators in our houses, certainly we've got in businesses. At vast cost, we've got water tanks. I have friends and clients who are repairing the roads at their own cost. We have the district municipality who spends 45 million and then another 10 on a farm outside our district, and that's what's happened. They've come up with a good 20-year vision. We've been promised 5 billion by the president. We haven't seen sight of that.
All right. I've got to end it right here then, because I need to take the news. Of course, Graham was quoted in that article talking about how completely collapsed Mthatha is. In fact, in the end, he said in that article that we've reached bottom. We can't go any further than where we are. Well, I'll get my guest to respond to this and, of course, what it means for the local government coming up next week. Local government elections coming up next week. It's just after 8:30. Let's go to Vabakshini Chetty for the latest headline news. Thank you very much. We continue taking your calls then on 0891 104 208, 0891 104 208. We'll do so up until 9 o'clock. And of course, that's when Sigim Gabadele will join us with Morning Talk, taking over until 12. She's on the line now to tell us what's coming through on her show. Sigi, good morning.
Hi there, Kolani. We'll be talking about hate crimes in this country, focusing specifically on prejudice against the gay and lesbian community. On Workers on Wednesday, we look at police violence during protests with labor unions, and we'll wrap with a preview of a free public debate tonight, which will be hosted by the University of Johannesburg, looking at the future of Afrikaans and Afrikaans students at universities. That's Morning Talk with me, Siki, between 9 and midday.
The Forum at 8 with Kolani Gwala.
For now, though, we're talking to the United Democratic Movement's General Bantu Olomisa, also the African Christian Democratic Party's Wayne Thring Durban, and here in the studio with me, the African People Convention's Temba Godi, who are taking your calls on 0891 104 208. I'm going to ask my guest to respond to the calls that we've received so far, but Willie in Germiston has been holding for a while. Let's quickly go to him and say good morning.
Kolani.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm very well. Welcome.
It's better than in jail, man. All right. Listen here. I like the input by APC, UDM, and ACDP. And let me not repeat what they said. But I wish, Kolani, that there should be a time in South Africa when I take dignity, clean environment or hygiene, and clean administration. These are wonderful policies. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
I wish I could have one party that will take all these things, You understand? Because I mean, as a citizen, Kolani, I'm sitting here. All those things are lovely. You get what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, we need to see South Africa working. This country, it's a free country. You know, there is free political activity. But we're waiting for one party, whether it be ANC, ACDP, APC, or whichever party, just to come around and change the lives of the South Africans. But on the point that you are raising, that parties are selling themselves, and what is it that they want to give to the citizenship of South Africa? Surely, people are going out there on the 18th of May to cast their vote.
Yeah.
And the fundamental issue here is that we need things to be done differently. Maybe things have been done 80-60%. I don't know. I don't want to tell lies. But we are saying that we need to develop, want to take the status of life from where we are today to another level.
Okay.
That's the contribution I want to make.
Thank you very much for your contribution. 0891 104 208. Mr. Godi, let me start with you responding to the calls.
Yeah, I must say that whilst indeed there are certain responsibilities assigned to the different spheres of government, when we look at the timeousness and quality of services delivered by municipalities, it certainly is below par and is not satisfactory. I mean, municipalities are allocated money for municipal infrastructure development, and almost all municipalities don't use that money fully, and at the end of the year the money has to go back.
But the question is, if Mr. Cody, then if your party was elected, how would you change the situation?
No, that's fine. Why is the money not spent when people are clearly in need? It is primarily because you have incompetent councillors, you have administrators who are employed not because they are capable, but because there is somebody they know and then they can't do the job. That's the thing. Look, I was in Extension 10 in Tsakani on Sunday. Those people were put there in 2007 and promised that this is a transit. You're only here for 3 months. It's now almost 4 years. 3 families share one toilet, share one stand. There are no roads. There is no electricity. And yet that municipality on a yearly basis gets money to supply those very services. So the issue is not so much whether there are things that municipalities can or should not do because it's not their area, but I'm saying in their areas of competence. And I don't think that there is a lot of complicated stuff around running municipalities. The things that need to be done are well documented, and National Treasury is forever there, prepared to, free of charge, assist in training municipal officials.
So it's a lack of will, you say?
It's a lack of professional competence. It's a lack of political integrity and the ideological orientation that says, what is our attitude and relationship with the people as a government?
General, let me bring you back again. Of course, Graham Alexander is making a lot of claims about Umtata and the state of Umtata. Your response broadly?
Well, I fully agree with him. Responding to Gift, one of the issues we've raised in our manifesto was the question of the how the budget is conducted in this country. In February, the National Minister of Finance will read the budget. Then down the line, you have to wait for the provincial MEC for finances to have their own pageant functions and read the same budget. Then around May, you will hear Metro or district municipality reading their budget, the same budget. But by the time it reaches the local municipalities, it's around August. And then those people still have to issue tenders. That's why this money, sometimes by September, the treasurer says, let us prepare to revise the estimates, end of the year estimates. And then the money is returned back in March. So in other words, the UDM is calling for, once the budget is read by national minister, the government should now allow provincial governments, municipal governments, to issue tenders so that the delivery can start immediately. Right now, we are in May and we're approaching June. All these areas I've been to, in a number of them, I've not seen one grader with a view to fix or maintain the roads which were affected by the floods and rains of early this year. So this bureaucratic bungle is a cause for people to go to the streets and say, where are the services? I mean, you are going to tell me now that you cannot remove the rubbish or employ people, this rubbish which is in the streets in every corner, just because you are saying you are waiting for the budget to be read by your executive mayor, which a budget which was announced in February. This is not on.
Wayne, on the complex reporting structures as alleged by Gift?
Yeah, thank you, Kolani. I think firstly, just want to say thank you to Will in Germiston for acknowledging the ACDP's policy. With regards to the issue of the 3 tiers of government and the problems that we have, monies and so on not being utilized, I think we need to understand that that some 1.6 billion rand is being sent back to the national coffers because they are not being spent in terms of the grants that are given to municipalities. And I think that it also speaks to, again, it speaks to a lack of competence within municipalities. I think that the cadre deployment, redeployment that has taken place, where people who are not properly skilled, who are given positions and yet are not properly qualified for the positions, is as a consequence of the decisions taken by the ruling party. And certainly what we need to see in order to roll out service delivery effectively is people who are properly qualified, people who are experts in their field. Kolani, I think the sad thing is that these are people's lives that we have. With a lack of service delivery has the potential, for example, if we need to have nursing sisters out in terms of primary health care, we have the budget, we have the money available to send the nurses out to treat people or to ensure that they don't get infectious diseases like TB, which is ravaging our nation. Yeah. So the money is there. The problem is that we have people who are being placed in positions because of cadre deployment, who are placed in positions purely as a result of the party affiliation.
Okay.
And not Kolani, I think the point here also, I believe that the vast majority of South Africans are not concerned about the color of service delivery, as long as service delivery is met into the communities. Okay. So whether it's white, black, brown, it doesn't matter who service delivery is coming from. And this is what the ACDP is saying: service delivery irrespective of color, but let it come with competence and let it come with expertise.
0891 104 208, 0891 104 208. Let me look at some of the SMSs before I come back to Mr. Godi, who obviously wants to say something here. Somebody says, in fact, it is John who says, no human rule will fulfill their promises because the whole world is controlled by Satan. But God's kingdom will bring real change for all. Another one coming through from Zugise Kailicha says, it is sad to say that the ANC fails South Africans. Now the animal farm government became Ohlohle Sake. I will never vote again. That's Mzugisi. Tabo in Soweto says, how can unemployment be reduced when the whole SADC population is flocking to our country? Another one says, farmers at Sunrise Farm are taking African community to court in order to evict them. Are your political leaders interested at all? There's even a number there if you're interested in calling that particular person, who does not give us their name, however. Nkosenya in KZN says, for 5 years, Pakistan did not know Bin Laden was there. Now we hear for 8 years, someone did not know of open toilets. Gross incompetence. Another one says, Mr. Holomisa is a very interesting and intelligent being. If I was going to vote, I would vote for his party. That's a Gogo in East London. Another one coming through from Rose in Durban says, Themba Godi is highly intelligent, steady, genuinely caring man of huge integrity. He is a leader of depth and vision. I hope he does well. There is Charles in Cape Town who says, with respect, former homeland leaders can never earn full respect. Religious parties could be a problem as well. Panel, what you must say, or rather, what must you say about those, or what do you say about those councillors elected without grade 12? That's must know. And Spiwa says, the problem with these minor groups is the fact that party equals the leader, and as such, leaders are hostile to any contest within. Butelezi and Olomisa are typical Spiwa and KZN. Those are some of the SMSs that have come through. Let me just quickly take Angus, then the leaders will respond. Angus in Plattenberg Bay, hello.
Yes, hi. It's so important for SAFM to educate the voters. If they don't or choose to not vote at all, It's really a tacit approval of the status quo, of what's going on, which party's in power. But if they don't like any party, it's important for them to go and spoil the paper. That's part of the whole democratic process, and it needs to be understood, because it demonstrates a willingness to vote, that there are people that they are still alive, and that they don't like any party.
Sure,
otherwise it's so important to go. Everybody should vote or do something to demonstrate their being there and their willingness to participate.
Okay, Angus in Plettenberg Bay, thank you very much. Mr. Gordy, you've been itching to say something.
Yeah, well, I do want to say that the critical challenge at local level and at any level, really, is the extent to which the people are at the center of the processes that take place. I know that there is no country that can ever say it has enough money for its developmental needs, but certainly the money that we have in South Africa, if it was used efficiently and economically, it can make a lot of difference in the lives of our people. I still argue that there is no reason why roads are not graded in municipalities. There is no reason why people should go without water when every municipality annually is given money.
Sure. Let me pick up on that point, because even yesterday I think there was a study released talking about, for instance, the number of engineers that we have. The issue is about skill and capacity at that tier of government. We apparently, India and China has 20 times more engineers per million people than we do. We do not have the skills.
Well, like I said initially, who do we employ and how do we employ people? I went to one village where the people have not been having water for a month because the pipe was blocked to divert water to a farmer, and the municipality came to apologize, and nothing has been done. Those people are staying there without water. So it has more to do with political integrity, political will. But the point I was making around those services are that on an annual basis, there is money available to ensure that people have water. There is money available to ensure that you grade the roads. So if they are not graded, there can be no excuse than that there is no political will. There is no sense in terms of what people need to do. And I think that the issues around capacity and around corruption, which I think some 5-6 weeks ago the Auditor General issued a report on the state of municipalities. For me, it do not point to any complexities, any inadequacies in legislation. It has to do with the fact that the people we have who are running the system just not have the interests of the people at heart. As somebody would say, people who cannot think beyond their personal stomachs.
General?
Well, let's respond to, I think there was one reference to former Homeland leader. Well, it's true that I was a Homeland leader, but I'm proud of the role I played when I was leader of Transkei, because we removed a corrupt government. And I left the government of Transkei in 1994 with clean slate, and I sleep peacefully today, not fearing that there will be hawks surrounding my house. Unlike these leaders of today, when they are elected into top offices, they start with their children, their wives, and so on, and relatives and friends. So I still bet, my friend, if you are still listening, I still bet on a wicket of anti-corruption. And during my innings, I've hit 6s and 4s outside the boundary. So, and politically, you will also recall that Transkei under my leadership was a liberated zone for the liberation movement to operate in that part of the world. Having said that, I would like to draw the attention of the nation to the system of ward committees, which I think is also failing. You will find that in these ward committees, you don't get the full participation of all the role players in a particular ward. As a result of that, these ward committees tend to be hijacked by political parties for their own nefarious objectives. So the UDM councils will institute a sustainable development council, which would be composed of key stakeholders such as key state departments, land affairs, water and environment, health, human settlements, as well as rural development and public works. Added to that, to these sustainable development councils would be the traditional leaders, non-governmental organizations, religious groupings, the community, youth, women, and so on. The aim is to make sure that whenever there's going to be a development in an area, the people of that particular area have either been consulted or they have requested that, and that out of the community you will find that there are people who have retired, who have got various expertise, which should also be part of these sustainable development councils. In that way, we will be in a position to address such things in the rural areas as land tenure system, which is not there right now.
Okay, what we'll do is we'll take a commercial break, but of course we will be wrapping up straight afterwards. We can take one or two more calls if you have a view on what you've heard this morning on 0891 104 208, 0891 104 208. Of course, also you can send us those SMSs 34701. Let's get your thoughts on the political parties that we're hosting here on the forum, 0891 104 208.
Hi, I'm The Forum at 8 with Xolani Gwala.
A couple of Facebook entries as well this morning before we go to the lines and get the leaders to wrap up. Somebody says, I have only one question for your guests. How difficult is it for them to form a single, formidable and credible opposition? They are too fragmented and it'll take them years before they take on the ANC to task. That's Mandla Sitole. I'm going to ask them to respond to that, Mandla, in a minute. There is also another one. Oh, Mandla sent another one that says, chickens have come home to roost. Let's stop making toilets the campaigning issue. The apartheid regime built 4-roomed houses for people. The ANC government offers RDP houses which are worse off than the so-called matchbox houses. The government is ripping people off their dignity. It is creating a welfare state by offering paltry grants and shoddy built structures. Create an environment that is conducive for people to thrive economically, politically, as well as otherwise. Perhaps we should start with Wayne, just in response to Mandla's question about how difficult is it to form a single, formidable and credible opposition.
Xolani, I think that what we need to understand is that the ideologies to a large extent of the different political parties differ. And so political parties, because of the different ideologies, it will be fairly difficult, I think, for political parties to actually form one opposition. However, I think multi-party governance coming together after the elections to ensure that service delivery is meted out is certainly something that is on the cards. With regards to the toilet issue, I think that certainly both the ANC and the DA, I must say, have been caught with their pants down, and I don't want to politicize that further. I think the people in South Africa actually understand the situation. With regards to the ACDP being a religious party, one of the callers made mention to that. Let me just say that the ACDP offers no apology for being a biblically based party. But when we talk about biblically based, we're talking about common principles. We're talking about the principles, biblical principles which speak about equity, biblical principles which speak about righteousness, biblical principles which speak of justice, biblical principles which speak of transparency. So the ACDP uses those particular principles within its particular ethos. Then let me just come back also to what Angus mentioned about not voting and spoiling the ballot paper. Xolani, I think that is disingenuous. I know that this appears to have been something which the DA has been speaking about, and it's alleged that this is what the DA wants people to do. I think that we need rather to encourage South African citizens to be positive voters. Spoiling the ballot paper is a negative issue. And so we need to encourage people, if they are dissatisfied with any political party, vote then for another political party whom you feel will be able to deliver services to you. Okay. With regards to skills development, I think certainly this is a challenge in terms of engineers. It points to a lack of depth in terms of our education system. Outcomes-based education has failed. The ACDP is saying in terms of if we want a strong economy, we have to have a commensurate, strong education system.
All right,
so
Wayne,
these are some of the things that the ACDP will be
General,
putting forward.
let me go to you as well. By way of wrapping up also, respond to some of the things that have come through, but also there's an SMS that I would like you to respond to. Somebody saying parties must explain a plan to enforce accountability if councillors don't perform. How do you respond to that, General?
In the UDM, we have a committee which is assessing each councillor, and if a councillor is not attending council meeting, is never open his or her mouth in the council, is just a voting kettle, we have to replace that individual. Secondly, let me go back to the issue of the of parties
forming together, coalition.
Forming together. In principle, there's nothing wrong with that. But normally the parties which think alike ideologically will easily click together. But currently, it is not, the problem is not the fragmentation of political parties. The problem is that the playing field is not leveled. How on earth are you going to justify a president flying with a state jet with ANC members who are not in government campaigning in all these provinces? And how on earth are you going to justify some of the leaders hiring helicopters to take their MECs or premiers to various places using state funds? As long as the playing field is not level, even if we were to get together, gang together against the ruling party, it will not work. Okay. Lastly, 2 years ago, I wrote a letter to President Zuma about the infrastructure and to Mbeki and Mr. Zuma about the collapsing of infrastructure in the townships and rural areas. And Mthatha was one of those. And President Zuma promised to, through the mayor here, to inject an amount of 5 billion to fix water leakages here and sewage systems. Yeah. But he has not done that. I hope that he can respond personally on this issue. People are sick and tired of these empty promises.
All right, let me get Mr. Godi to wrap up.
Yeah, Kolani, I think from the African People's Convention perspective, we would like to urge all our people on the 18th to go out and vote. Voting is a right for which we fought. So many of our people died, so many of our people spent time in jail, so that we as a people can, at various intervals, decide who should run our lives. I do believe that the APC deserves the opportunity and the chance to represent our people as a party that has set itself a vision of being a viable, credible and progressive alternative governing party that is premised on the traditions and values of the liberation movement of people-centeredness and popular democracy.
I don't know if there's much to read from what he's laughing at that. But anyway, let me thank my guests for coming through this day. Wayne Tring, Deputy President of ACDP. Thank you. General Olomisa, thanks indeed for coming through. Themba Godi here with me in the studio. Thanks indeed for coming through to our program. Let me thank the team. Bulelo Makubo, Misha Shandlale, Wisane Makubele, Jake Mukoma, Patrick Munana, Lungile Mabaso, and Lebo Munamacholo, Chief Producer or Bruce Chia, Executive Producer, and Tlagane Pozulu. My name is Kolani Gwala. Gillian Degove and myself back again tomorrow bright and early here on SAFM. Time now 9 o'clock, and of course straight afterwards it'll be morning talk with Sigim Kabadeli. From all of us, then you have yourselves a fantastic day ahead. Yourselves a fantastic day ahead. Yourselves a fantastic day ahead. Yourselves a fantastic day ahead.